So, we are back for the Universal Skills podcast, and in my hand right now, which you've been waiting for, is our inspection report of Universal Skills Centre Limited, because we recently had an Ofsted inspection. So, we're sat here as a continuous improvement team, myself, Dan Taylor, we've got Mariam and Katy as well with me, and we formed the continuous improvement team, the Ofsted team for our inspection that we had a number of weeks ago. Take me back to the first day, Mariam, when we got the call. How was you feeling and what happened?
It was actually Katy that answered the call. So, Katy, do you want to say how you actually felt when you picked up that phone?
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird, and anyone who works here will know I'm sort of the last person to answer the phone, but for whatever reason I answered it, and straight away they asked to speak to yourself, Dan, which obviously you weren't in at the time. I think you were on annual leave, actually.
Yeah.
And then I said, Dan isn't here, but I can actually pass you on to the nominee, which is Mariam. And as I was passing the phone to Mariam, because we sit in the same office, I was making a lot of gestures explaining that it was Ofsted. And yet it was just the smoothest phone call we could have probably had, because I think if anyone else would have answered it, they might have not really known who to put it through to, sort of thing. Like they would panicking, would have ran into Mariam or whatever, but it just was so slick. And then obviously Mariam, you took the call.
I took the call, and I think the first thing that Katy did was turn Alexa off. So we could actually hear what it is that they had to say. I've got to admit, my heart was probably in my throat at that point, and I didn't know what to expect. And obviously with me being the nominee for the first time and not really being involved as much within for our monitoring visit, I just thought, right, what do we actually need to expect here? But if I'm honest, it just went really smooth. The person that I did speak to over the phone, she explained things in detail to me, said that we'd get a phone call from our lead inspector, and that I should be expecting that within the same day. So, and that's exactly what happened. I think it was probably 10 minutes later after the call, we got a phone call from the lead inspector. And again, she was absolutely lovely. She just went through everything in so much detail, told me that we're going to go through this together. She's going to explain everything, the whole process to me, and the fact that we're going to have a planning call after this. So it couldn't have gone better than the way it did, to be honest. It was really nice.
And at that starting process, if you could go back to that time and say to yourself, I am so glad we had that in place, is there anything for both of you to think, I'm just glad we had that in place, it was just ready for them straight away when they came in to inspect? Is there anything you can think of, Mariam?
If I'm honest, we've been working towards becoming better and better, and because we've put this continuous improvement team in place, and it's probably been in place for a couple of years now, the fact that we've actually had that in place, and for us to be able to speak to each other and say, I'm not happy with this, we need to do something about it, or I am happy about this, but how can we improve? The fact that we've always continuously wanted to strive for improvement has definitely helped.
By you, Kay?
I think we had some certain folders that were already pre-prepared, weren't they? Just for little snippets of things that we thought might come up every now and then. We obviously had our presentation ready. And it was funny because obviously I think the week before we'd task you with a mock one or something.
I was just going to say that,
yeah. So it was almost like it just came at the exact time that we wanted it to. Like I say, me and Mariam instantly just knew what each other had to do, and none of us even spoke. I don't think it was more of one of us would look up and go, are you doing that? Yeah, okay, great. And we just automatically divided these tasks. And
it was almost like we were just in sync with each other. We knew what we had to do, and it's like if we did have any tasks or anything that we needed to complete, it wasn't a case of splitting it. We just knew what we had to do. I took on what I needed to do, Katy took on what she needed to do, and we worked really well as a team.
No. Definitely, and rolling it right back to when Ofsted first knocked on our door, that will have been in 2020. I always call it the old world because it was before we knew really what coronavirus was and things like that, and then we had a big lockdown, but it was February 2020, March time, that we had our Ofsted monitoring visit, and of course we had a couple of actions out the back of that, and I think it was very important for our Ofsted inspection, that it'd been clear that we'd worked on those.
Yeah.
I always take away from myself, as part of that monitoring visit, we need to do better things with British values and endpoint assessment. Some of our learners didn't fully understand exactly what endpoint assessment was. And with British values, we needed to make it a little bit more relevant to what we did. And a lot of work's gone on around those two subjects, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And with functional skills as well. So just making sure that functional skills is also at the forefront. I mean, we obviously know with what we deliver here in the centre, with it being the level 2 dual fuel smart metering qualification, there are elements of British values, but a chunk of that is also functional skills, because not only do we focus on learners completing and achieving, and it's like, well done, pat on the back, we want them to strive for the best.
Yeah.
We want them to get that distinction. We want them to, in the future, if they want to do a level 5 in something, we want them to have the qualification behind them to be able to do that. And I just feel like we've put measures in place for them to be able to do that, to be set up for life rather than just for the next year.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the inspection report in front of me here, and I think it's been very emotional for us all to read it. I'll never forget, getting the staff together and explaining sort of what we've been graded. But one thing that really sticks in my mind, and I think it sticks in your minds as well, is just reading a quote from the report: leaders, managers and staff all aim for their apprentices to reach for the stars. And it's so nice that Ofsted were able to recognise that as part of the inspection when they spent that time with us. So yeah, we've rolled it back a bit there, and we've looked at our monitoring visit and the inspection. Ofsted, of course, came in, and I think where I've been surprised is that nobody here was frightened of Ofsted. We sort of wanted them to come in. How many conversations did we have about, is it going to be this week? Is it going to be next week? We really wanted them to come so we could show what we felt. They were ready, and we wanted to be inspected, didn't we?
I mean, we did, to the point where the week before, obviously, we went to a day with Ofsted in London, and I asked how long between sort of visits can it go, because we've been waiting patiently. And, the man turned around and was like, oh, don't worry about it. And I was like, I am worried about it because we want it. Like, we can't decide how far we've come until someone comes in and tells us how far we've come. So I think it was really important for us to actually get evaluated by someone who doesn't know anything about us and see that all the hard work that, the whole team has done, see how far that has actually come. And obviously, with this outcome, we know where we're at now.
I'd probably say also within education that people actually have like a negative agenda when it comes to Ofsted. But in this case, honestly, I think Ofsted are the best thing that have happened to us. And it's nice to see the positivity that's come out of it, and just to see that with Ofsted want to help. That's why they're there, and it's what they want to do, and it's something that they want to help, just to make sure that education is working the way it should, and what they've put in place is working. I just feel like we had such a positive visit from Ofsted that we managed to get everything in place for them. Anything that they asked for, we had that with us. So with our lead inspector, she was just very supportive with everything that we needed. If I had any questions, I wasn't afraid to approach her and actually ask her what she meant, or for her to repeat anything. Even when it came back to the feedback sessions on a night, it wasn't a case of me not being able to speak openly or ask any questions or ask them to reiterate anything. I just feel like with the lead inspectors being sat there, it was nice for me to feel like I had a voice.
Yeah. One thing I would take from it definitely is they sort of dispelled some things that I had in my mind about British values, as an example. I think some people think, oh, you've got to be at an AIM-5 British values, but actually they said, we're not looking for that. What we're looking for is how you make that relevant within your provision. And also things like, you need to show evidence that you're having leadership and management meetings, and you must have actions, you must have minutes. But actually what they're looking for is that your leadership and management is effective. And if you can show evidence of, we have the minutes and we have the actions, or however you do it, but you show that it's effective and you show that it's happening, that's all they're interested in. There's not one set way to do things for British values, for equality and diversity, for leadership and management meetings, just to name 3 things. It's actually, can they see that it's effective? And if they can see it's effective, that's all they're really interested in.
That's right. And is it implemented? How is it implemented? Is it something that the learners are going to remember? Is it something that the tutors and all staff are going to remember? And with us having our continuous improvement sessions and the workshops that we've actually put in place as well, this is something that's always been at our forefront. It's not something that we've wanted to slack on. Within my team, Sarah, she does an absolutely fantastic job when it comes to research. She'll research what's happening in the news. She'll research what's happening around the country, because our apprentices, as you know, they do come from all over the country. So we want to know what's at risk within their specific areas, which is why we've got the map, and the map states you know, what's going on within the county lines and prevent and safeguarding, and we do highlight that to the learners as well, especially with them having to go out in the field and work on their own and go into customers' properties and things. This is something that we want to equip them with. Again, like I said before, it's not just for now, it's for life. It's for something that they will understand moving forward, and it doesn't matter what career or what job they move into, they've always got it.
Absolutely. And as part of the inspection, we're inspected across 4 themes. So we have the quality of education, behaviours and attitudes, personal development, and leadership and management. Of those 4 themes, Katie, does anything stick out in terms of evidence that we showed, activities that took part past, or the experience that we had with Ofsted during those gradings and where they looked at us? Anything stick out?
I think the quality of education was obviously a big one for me, especially considering that sort of falls within my team. But I remember sitting in the first feedback meeting, and it was sort of, you know, it was just sort of facts. They didn't really say much. And then the next day, we had another feedback meeting, and I was nearly crying sat in here. And it was just nice to listen to, obviously, like Mariam has mentioned, we've worked really hard. We've done a lot of continuous improvement meetings. We've done a lot of workshops. We have built a team who aren't really scared now to hear words like cuckooing or county lines or can you talk about this in your lessons. There was a time when we started this where I'd go in and observe someone and they'd just chuck a question in that had absolutely nothing to do with what they're doing, and they'd be like, right, someone name a British value.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was so unauthentic, and it was just, it wasn't the quality of learning. It was, right, I'm being observed, I'm going to have to just chuck this in. It's nothing like that now. It flows well, you know. People talk about safeguarding with unsafe situations in gas, like it really flows. And I think listening to someone, and the feedback was immense on it, Mariam. It was
amazing.
Reams and reams. My pen could not go fast enough.
Yeah, my wrist was hurting after that.
Yeah, and it was just nice to hear that basically everything you've done and what you've put in place, and how your delivery team are, how the assessors, how the tutors, how the apprentices, how the leaders and managers, everyone's under just this same umbrella of they want excellence. Everyone said the same thing, you know, apprentices said what the tutors had done, and the tutors have said what the managers do, and everything was just all the same, and it was just so nice to hear that we're all doing the best.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think for those people listening to the podcast who maybe have got an Ofsted inspection looming and it's on the verge of happening potentially and they're working towards it, I think one thing that's worth noting, people might already know this, but I wasn't allowed to be in all the feedback sessions. It was generally yourselves, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Other than the last day when we had final grading. And I've got a big note here when I look back at my notes, 10:40 a.m. circled in big letters, final grading. And I remember that being so important, that going to the toilet and coming back towards the boardroom where Ofsted were and thinking, here we go, you know. And I've been speaking to you, Mariam, and you, Katy, every day about how's the feedback session. And those nights, you know, I remember coming off the phone to you and you thinking, we've had some really good feedback. Is there one piece of feedback in particular that sticks in your mind from those sessions?
But do you know what? To be honest, all the feedback that we got back, we were speechless. I'd probably say throughout the feedback sessions that me and Katy were sat in, because I for myself being the nominee and Katy being the shadow, there's one thing that I'd actually say there. Actually, having a shadow nominee was probably one of the best things that Ofsted have put in place, especially having that support. I didn't feel like I was alone. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like I had to have this burden on myself for a whole week. And because I could share that with Katy, and Katy knew the ins and outs of it with her being in the feedback with me, it felt good, and I felt supported. But going back to the feedback, I can't honestly pick out one thing, because they spoke very highly of staff, leaders, managers, and all of us together, really.
What about you, Katy?
Yeah, I think the same. There was one sentence, and I can't remember it for the life of me, and I think between the three of us we all tried to write it down, but it was quite a large sentence. But it was just all about basically the team that work here, the apprentices, their attitude, the employers backing, and just everything. It sort of just said, you're all amazing. And it was really funny, like Mariam said, we've sat here, and I think we went into our office, and obviously Ofsted are still here, and we're in our office sort of having a little dance party pretty much. And then you gave ourselves 30 seconds and we're like, right, be professional again now, because we're going to walk past in a minute and we need to let them out the door. And you just didn't, it was a it was a bit weird because it was like me and Mariam didn't want to give away any emotion about how we were feeling, and I don't know why, because obviously someone's just told you all this really nice stuff for 45 minutes and we're sat there as if, right, okay, yeah, we're just going to go back to work now and do nothing. And
it's almost like we didn't want to be too excited and think we've reached for Outstanding if we haven't actually got there. So it was always kind of having that, that kind of brace yourself, because that might not be the case, or it might be a good, or something else might happen, because we weren't aware of the fantastic result that we did get. We had to hold our emotions and couldn't really celebrate it.
I think I kept saying it's good, but like, is it Ofsted Outstanding good, or is it just good? And I think I was the person who kept just making us come back down to earth, even though you were hearing all these amazing things. I was like, yeah, but we don't actually know what Outstanding is. Like, you can read the inspection framework as much as you want, but it doesn't define like what they think is outstanding. So we just sat there every night going, that was good feedback, wasn't it? I'm like, is it good or was it great feedback?
We didn't get carried away, did we, either? Because you felt as if, I've got a feeling I know where this is going. And I remember the lead inspector saying, one thing I will say is that whenever we ask for something, within 5 minutes you've got it. And, the lead inspector said, we go to providers sometimes and we're waiting days for things, which I think was fantastic to hear. And, like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I've got the inspection report in front of me, which is now available to be viewed by the public. And I just highlight a couple of things that have stuck with me. One of the big things on page 2, apprentices demonstrate a deep understanding of British values relevant to their job and their lives in general, which is so important, because when we flip this on its head to a few years ago, which we mentioned, we did teaching, learning, observations, and we'd walk into classes and it wasn't natural, but it's been brought into such a natural way where it just flows so nice in what we're delivering, the apprenticeship standard. It's quite a robust report, so for those of you that do read it, there's several pages that go into detail, but just to pick out another highlighted section that's really stuck with me: tutors deliver their sessions with confidence and draw on their vast experience of the sector and the subject, because we do have industry experts here that have been there, that have seen it, and that have improved with us through continuous improvement sessions. They've got education and teaching qualifications now as part of how we've helped them since they've joined us, and that's really helped. Another thing that I took from the report was leaders and managers have a highly effective oversight of the quality of training that apprentices receive, and that's so important to us, isn't it? The quality that they receive, we're constantly reviewing it. What did you think about that feedback, Mariam, on the quality of our training?
The quality of our training, I mean, when the inspector actually went through that and she started talking to us, I mean, like Katie said, we just kept on writing for pages and pages and pages, because that was a big one for us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there was one in there where they said apprenticeships who need to sit maths and English within their programme, they do this throughout the weeks that they're here whilst they're here in the centre, but they also then are upskilled to the level 2. And for us as a training provider, it's not actually something that we need to do within the standard that we deliver, but like I said, it's something that we want to put forward for our apprentices to say, it's fantastic that you've achieved this level 2, but let's get you upskilled. Let's still move you forward. We want to continue to push you forward so that you can actually, gain that level 2 if you want that level 2. So they have the option to do that.
Yeah, and just before you get to the safeguarding section in the report, for those people that are going to read it, it says leaders, managers and staff all aim for their apprentices to reach for the stars. And there was a sentence that they mentioned in the feedback that we couldn't all quite write down because we just couldn't physically write quickly enough. But that, to finish off sort of all the themes before they get to safeguarding, is just so lovely to read. And I think thoroughly deserved as well, because we know how hard we've worked for this. The team have worked so hard, the delivery team, the office staff, and it's not been easy. And to get to where we've got to, it's so pleasing. And when we look at all the themes, because we're not mentioning this yet, we have an overall effectiveness as part of the themes. As I mentioned, you've got the quality of education, behaviours and attitudes, personal development, leadership and management, and then you also are graded for your safeguarding, which is either effective or not effective. And pleased to share, we've kind of been hinting at it during this podcast, but we got outstanding across the board. So we got outstanding for the quality of education, outstanding for behaviours and attitudes, outstanding for personal development, outstanding for leadership and management. And one of the reasons why I personally was so keen to do this podcast is because, You know what? Sometimes people don't shout about their achievements, but we bloody should shout about this because the team has worked so hard at Universal Skills for this. And a big part of this podcast, we wanted to give some tips about, if you come into an Ofsted inspection, don't be frightened, be ready. And we're going to give you a couple of tips before we finish. But I'm so proud of the team. I know Katy and Mariam are. And, we really wanted to share our experience of this inspection, how it went, and just how proud we are. So a couple of top tips then. So in terms of the inspection, if we forget about the monitoring visit for now, in fact, you could do Ofsted in general, but if we think about a full inspection, you've got a provider similar to us that are thinking, we've got a full inspection to come. It's been a couple of years since our monitoring visit. What would your top tip be, Katy?
I think, we've mentioned it. Don't be scared of it. Don't hide away anything that you think you might not be very good at. You've got to put it out there. I know me and Mariam looked obviously at our SAR and our QUIP before we put it forward, and you have to be honest on it. And if you are working towards something, great. That doesn't mean it's going to be a weakness. It means if you've highlighted it and you're aware of it and you've put something in place for it already and you're working towards that, great. Don't try and bury it and say, oh yeah, we know that, but we're going to sort of shove it to the side. It's no good. They're going to find it. They're going to find everything. So I think be honest, be transparent, and they'll be transparent with you. And I think there wasn't anything really, we had a couple of times where it was a bit intense, but there wasn't really anything where we weren't prepared or we didn't have evidence for something. So I think, a big thing you did, and you've done it throughout, is you give us like these mini deep dives, and you ask me and Mariam sometimes for you just go really heavy on one topic sometimes, and I think that helped massively because we'd already collated evidence for some stuff, which then we ended up showing them a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
What about you, Mariam?
For me, it would definitely be prepared, not scared. That's definitely something that I would say you need to do. Like Katy said, with your quality improvement plan, make sure it's up to date. Get everything in there. If there's something that you are working towards, get it in there. And again, I mean, Katy's probably said most of the stuff, but it's like you just need to make sure that if you are lacking in something, don't hide it. If you are lacking in it, actually shout it and just say, this is what we're lacking in, this is what we need to improve on, and these are the measures that we've actually put in place for it. Ofsted would appreciate that so much. I know they did with us, and when there was something that if they did bring something up, in fact, they didn't have to bring something up to say to us that this is what you need to improve on, because it's something that we'd already picked up in our QUIP anyway.
Yeah. I think that's so important that if there is something, because no business is perfect, no training centre, school or college is perfect. As long as you're aware of it and you're putting things in place to make it better, that's the main thing. You've got to highlight it. And I think as part of our presentation, you get 10 minutes with Ofsted on day one just to present, and I was able to present and just tell them a little bit more about the business, where it's going, what we've done. And we highlighted about our monitoring visit and what we've been working on. I think that was really important because we were aware of what we needed to improve on. And then from our monitoring visit running up all the way to the inspection in that period of time, we picked up on other things that we need to improve on by observing, teaching and learning, by doing our own deep dives. That would be what my one big tip really is. I think we went to a different level when we started really scrutinising our own work, and we'd sit in this room. Don't forget, we used to bring learners into this room, and we'd question the learners on their experience. We'd get their portfolios out away from the tutor that they might be a little bit more comfortable with. We'd bring them into the continuous improvement meetings. We'd phone learners just out of the blue and just say, ask them some questions about British values and how it's linked to their apprenticeship programme, but also we'd ask them about write-ups, which are really fundamentally important to our programme, and how they're supported through that, how maths and English is linked, and we bring lots of questions, and EPA was a big one as well. So doing your own scrutinisation, and we called them mini deep dives into different parts of our provision, I think was so important. And then we started to show tutors what we would be doing in continuous improvement sessions, which we ran at least quarter. I think that was a big part of it as well. So that would be my big tip. But like you say, be prepared, not scared, and you've got to allow yourself that time to be ready for it. Don't leave it all too much. Keep it in your schedule. Get your Outlook open and your calendar. Every couple of months, make sure you've got your sessions planned. Make sure they go ahead. Make sure you've got evidence of them, and make sure they're robust sessions where there's good learnings and progression going on.
Absolutely, and I'd add to that. Sorry, Katy.
That's right.
I'd add to that feedback sessions as well. You want to continuously have feedback sessions with your staff, with tutors, with the learners, with the board of governance. I know we've actually not spoken much about the board of governance, but you need to have something like that in place, because I feel like they also push you to continuously improve, and having that in place and having that come from different people and having that feedback as well, that's something that you can focus on, because realistically you don't know how good you are, you don't know how well you do, you don't know what you need to improve on until you have that feedback from other people. So I'll definitely say get that in place as well.
Yeah, great point on the board of governance, by the way. And we were lucky, we were fortunate to be able to share the news with the board of governance members straight away. We were allowed to do that as part of the inspection, because of course you can't until it's all signed off. So it's sort of a month, maybe a little bit longer, before the inspection report can go out. And it was so nice to be able to share with the governors, because we've had a board of governance in place now for well over 3 years, probably nearly 4 years, and they have stretched and challenged us. They've said what they don't think will work, what they think we need to improve on, because they all come and look at it from different perspectives. You've got real industry leaders who have been there, seen it and done it, and have so much experience, and that has really been, it's really helped us and aided our provision. I remember, we had the session in Leeds last year, was it October time, when we went off site and had a bit of a day, again scrutinising our provision. Where can we improve? Where can we chip away at this knowledge that these governors have got that will just help us going forward? And I think that was really important as well. So yeah, you're right to mention. And as I close the Ofsted report, I just want to leave you with the day. So I talked about 10:40, we came in here, we had the final grading, that took a period of time. And then we wanted to get the teams together, didn't we?
We did.
So me and Katy went and hid and went for a walk down the canal, because we didn't want anybody to see our reactions. And of course, at this point, we knew what the grading was. It was grade 1, it was outstanding, it was across the board, it was a fantastic, the feedback, I'm going to share this, I didn't know if I would, but our area of improvement was keep doing as you're doing. And we were told we very rarely tell that, which I think is fantastic. But for us now, we're all thinking, we're going to keep progressing, we're going to keep getting better. And as much as we didn't have an area of improvement, we will keep looking for our own. So that was just unbelievable to hear. But yeah, we went to hide after the grading meeting, because we were so keen to bring all the staff together, because of course we were allowed to tell our staff on the day. And for yourself, Mariam, how did that feel on that day? It was a very emotional day when we broke it to the staff.
Oh, it really was. It really was. The fact that we already knew what was happening. I think secretly inside you just wanted to jump for joy, but you had to also compose yourself, because we didn't want all the staff to know what the result was. Well, we kind of wanted them to feel the way we did, didn't we, in the beginning? So we just wanted it to be a little bit of a build-up. But when we did that, and the reaction from everyone, it was overwhelming, I think.
It was, yeah. And like you say, it was, we sat in here and got all this feedback for what was quite a long time. And like you say, they only got a snippet of it, and you wanted them to have to sort of go through a little bit of what you went through, because you did a little build up. And I think if you speak to some of the staff, they will tell you not to play poker. But I don't think they realised it was outstanding. I think they knew it was something good. But obviously you built it up and you did it theme by theme, and you really played on it. And I don't think me and Mariam could look at anyone, because they would have known from us with some direct eye contact. But like you say, everyone was so elated, and it was like just this weird feeling of euphoria, I guess, that everyone was so excited, and we all just, there was a few tears everywhere. It was just amazing, really, wasn't it?
It's like the feeling of we've done it. We've finally done it.
Yeah, it was a massive relief. And I think, a lot of the people have been with us for a number of years now, and have changed and progressed, and, came to us with certain qualifications, and have learnt other qualifications, and, have done so much with the business. And I remember standing up in our large classroom here upstairs, and, there's 20 people in front of us. We've got a team of 22, and seeing the emotion in their face as we were delivering the news is something that will stick with me as a career highlight, because everybody in that room was rooting for us to achieve that top result. And don't forget as well, Ofsted said to us, our lead inspector said, we don't go to places where tutors are desperate to speak to us. They were queuing out the door, similar to when the company was acquired people were queuing to speak to the new owners because they want to show, this is who we are, this is what we can do, and we're proud of it. So that was amazing. And I don't know if there's any final thoughts, but we're really keen to firstly let everybody know that we're so proud to get outstanding across the board, to get grade 1. It's now up to us to take that outstanding and continue with it, which we will absolutely be striving to do. It's so important. We've got a lot of new apprentices starting with us at the moment. We're also looking at new funding streams for things like renewables, which is going to be coming up very shortly. So this is really important that our quality of our provision is kept up. But any parting thoughts from you, Mariam?
I'd definitely just say, if you need any advice, come and ask us. If you want to approach us, send us any messages or anything like that, we are definitely open to it, because we will share our experience as we already have. But again, if you've got any specifics that you want to know, then please do get in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd just say get your whole company involved. We had people who don't necessarily really have anything to do with the apprenticeship side of the business, but they knew about stuff. They knew what was going to happen. They sort of knew the procedure, and I think the more people who know, the calmer the workplace will be the day you get the call. Yeah.
Final thing for me is I just want to thank the staff, for the hard work that's gone into it for years. And we know it's been years. There's been so much hard work that's gone into it. I want to thank the employers that work with us, that trust Universal Skills and have done for a long time to, send their learners to us, and we put these new skills into them. They go out across the country installing different gas meters, electric meters, in-home display, educating customers, making them safe. Thank you to the employers for trusting us and continuing to. Also for the support from our governors. I think it's so important that we've got that robust governance, that board of governance in place that we have 3-4 times a year. So a big thank you to our governors, our customers, our staff. And also thank you to the listeners today as well. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And like Mariam said, and it's absolutely right, if we can support anyone or make anybody feel a little bit more at ease about an Ofsted inspection, please do contact us. Get in touch via the website, because we're more than happy to help. But thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks.